In World War II, the Brewster Buffalo earned a reputation as one of the most disappointing fighters ever built. Allied pilots cursed it, enemy aces dismissed it, and history almost buried it. Yet, in the hands of Finnish pilots, this stubby little plane rewrote its destiny. Against all odds, the Buffalo became a lethal weapon in the frozen skies of Europe. The Brewster F-2A Buffalo was supposed to herald a new age of fighter aircraft for the US Navy. Sleek monoplanes were replacing biplanes, and the Buffalo entered service in 1939 with fanfare. On paper, it looked revolutionary. Retractable landing gear, enclosed cockpit, and a radial engine capable of over 300 miles per hour. Yet the moment it left the drawing board and entered the brutal skies of World War II, its promise crumbled. In the Pacific, the Buffalo became infamous. Facing the agile and deadly Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0, the Buffalo was hopelessly outclassed. It was too heavy, underpowered, and slow to climb. Pilots complained it handled like a truck when agility was needed most. Worse, once ammunition, armor, and fuel were loaded, the already sluggish Buffalo became even less responsive. Squadrons flying the Buffalo in the defense of Malaya and Singapore suffered catastrophic losses, with some describing it as a flying coffin. The British Royal Air Force and Dutch pilots reached the same conclusion. Their Buffaloes were torn apart by Japanese fighters, often before even making it back to base. Within 2 years of entering combat, the aircraft was withdrawn from frontline service by every major Allied air force that had received it. By 1942, the Buffalo was remembered as a failure, an outdated design that never should have made it off the production line. Yet, even as the US and Britain rushed to replace it with Wildcats, Hurricanes, and Spitfires, another country took notice. Finland, a small nation fighting for its very existence against the Soviet Union, didn't see a coffin. They saw a lifeline. For them, the Brewster Buffalo wasn't a symbol of failure. It was a chance to level the skies. And that gamble would change history. When the Soviet Union invaded Finland during the Winter War of 1939, the imbalance in strength was staggering. The Red Air Force fielded thousands of modern planes, while Finland's air fleet was a patchwork of outdated designs and dwindling numbers. Every additional fighter was precious, no matter how flawed. So, when an opportunity came to purchase Brewster Buffaloes from the United States, Finland didn't hesitate. They bought 44. To outside observers, this seemed desperate. The Buffalo was already proving disastrous elsewhere. But Finland wasn't fighting the same war as Britain or the US. Their skies weren't filled with Zeros or Messerschmitts. Their enemy was the Soviet Union, and in that context, the Buffalo offered potential. It had decent range, reasonable firepower, and a sturdy frame. With skilled hands, it could be adapted into something useful. The Finns immediately set about tailoring the aircraft to their needs. Maintenance crews stripped unnecessary equipment to lighten the plane, increasing agility. Pilots were trained to exploit its strengths, maneuverability at lower altitudes, strong dive capability, and surprising toughness in cold weather. Unlike in the tropics, where engines overheated and reliability suffered, Finland's climate actually suited the Buffalo better. More importantly, Finland wasn't just buying airplanes, they were buying time. Every Buffalo that took to the skies meant one more chance to hold back Soviet bombers, one more edge in a war they weren't supposed to survive. For a small country staring down a giant, the choice was simple: fly the Buffalo or risk flying nothing at all. What Finland didn't know then was that this gamble would pay off far beyond expectations. Because once their pilots entered combat, the Buffalo's story shifted from mockery to miracle, and it was just the beginning. What Finland lacked in numbers, it made up for with extraordinary pilots. The Finnish Air Force was built on rigorous training and tactical brilliance. Instructors drilled cadets to master deflection shooting, teamwork, and sharp discipline. They didn't just fly, they studied every Soviet maneuver, learned to anticipate patterns, and exploited weaknesses. Unlike their counterparts in the Pacific, who were often out-trained by Japanese veterans, Finnish pilots became masters of precision. They valued patience over recklessness, striking only when the odds tilted slightly in their favor. This focus produced some of the deadliest aces of the war, including Ilmari Juutilainen and Hans Wind, who racked up staggering victory counts flying Buffaloes. The pilots forged a bond with their planes, learning to coax performance from engines that sputtered under foreign hands. To the Finns, the Buffalo was not a liability. It was a partner in survival. And survival demanded excellence. What emerged was not just an effective fighting force, but a reputation that would soon shock both friend and foe alike. Because when these pilots finally unleashed their Buffaloes against the Red Air Force, the results were nothing short of astonishing. When the Soviet Union unleashed its massive air fleet over Finland, it looked like a slaughter waiting to happen. Soviet squadrons dwarfed the Finnish Air Force, sometimes by ratios as high as 10-1. Against this tide, the Brewster Buffalo entered combat. On paper, it seemed suicidal. Yet the Finnish pilots quickly turned the underdog fighter into a deadly trap for their enemies. Flying low over forests and lakes, the Buffalo excelled in ambush tactics. Its relatively sturdy frame allowed it to dive into attacks, unleash bursts of fire, and then vanish back into cloud cover. Soviet pilots, often less experienced and poorly trained, fell victim to Finnish patience. Where Soviet formations relied on brute force, the Finns flew with surgical precision. Every engagement was measured, deliberate, and designed to maximize kills while minimizing risk. The results were shocking. During the continuation war that followed, Buffalo-equipped squadrons racked up staggering kill ratios. In some cases, Finnish pilots reported over 10 Soviet planes destroyed for every Buffalo lost. The aircraft mocked as a flying coffin elsewhere was suddenly the backbone of Finland's survival. For the Red Air Force, facing Finnish Buffaloes became a nightmare. The Soviets underestimated them time and again, only to lose men and machines in humiliating numbers. What should have been an easy victory turned into a grinding war of attrition, with the Buffalo at its heart. And while other nations discarded the plane, Finland made it legendary. But the true secret wasn't in the machine, it was in how the Finns flew it. The Brewster Buffalo was no miracle plane. It was heavy, sluggish at high altitude, and hopeless against the best fighters of its time. But the Finnish Air Force didn't try to make it something it wasn't. Instead, they rewrote the rules of combat to amplify its few strengths. The Buffalo's relatively tight turning radius and solid low-speed handling gave it one advantage: agility near the ground. Finnish pilots mastered boom and zoom tactics, striking from surprise angles, then diving away before Soviet reinforcements could react. They flew in small, coordinated groups, often attacking from the sun to blind their opponents. Discipline was everything. No reckless dogfights, no unnecessary risks. Every maneuver had a purpose. Finnish ground crews also worked wonders. They stripped unnecessary weight, tweaked engines for reliability, and ensured maintenance was flawless. In the harsh northern climate, where Soviet planes often struggled to function, the Buffalo ran like clockwork. The Finns didn't just fly their machines, they tailored them into extensions of their strategy. The results were extraordinary. Soviet formations designed to overwhelm with numbers found themselves repeatedly picked apart. Pilots who dismissed the Buffalo as outdated soon discovered it was lethal when wielded by disciplined hands. And it wasn't long before Finnish aces started writing their names into history books, flying the very plane others had mocked. If this was crazy, turning a flying coffin into a Soviet killer, wait until you see what happened when the kill count started climbing higher than anyone believed possible. By the time the continuation war was in full swing, the Brewster Buffalo's reputation in Finland had shifted from last resort to sky predator. Numbers don't lie, and the scoreboard was astonishing. Finnish squadrons flying buffaloes achieved kill ratios unmatched anywhere else in World War II. Reports confirmed that for every buffalo lost, more than 10 Soviet aircraft were shot down, a staggering figure that defied the global narrative of the buffalo as a failure. Some of Finland's most decorated aces emerged from the cockpits of these stubby little fighters. Ilmari Juutilainen, credited with 94 aerial victories overall, scored many of his early kills in a buffalo. He never lost a single wingman throughout the war, a testament to his discipline and lethal precision. Hans Wind, another legendary Finnish ace, also made history in the buffalo, downing dozens of Soviet planes with ruthless efficiency. These men proved that technology was not destiny, skill, patience, and tactical mastery could rewrite the odds. The Soviets were left humiliated. Their supposedly superior aircraft were falling in droves to a machine the Allies had thrown aside. Finnish Buffalo squadrons became feared across the Eastern Front, their reputation growing with each dogfight. And unlike the Allied experience, where buffaloes were swatted from the skies, Finland's airmen turned them into legends. International observers took note. Aviation historians would later describe the Finnish Buffalo record as one of the most remarkable transformations in aerial warfare. The same plane that had failed in the Pacific became the cornerstone of one of the most effective small air forces in history. The Scoreboard told a story no propaganda could erase. Against overwhelming odds, the Finnish pilots and their Brewster Buffaloes carved their place in history. Yet numbers were only part of the legacy. The real story lived on in what the buffalo came to symbolize. When the war ended, the Brewster Buffalo's reputation remained complicated. To most of the world, it was still remembered as a failure, a relic overshadowed by faster, sleeker fighters that defined the era. But in Finland, the buffalo carried a very different legacy. For a nation fighting for survival against a giant neighbor, the buffalo became a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and national pride. The aircraft's performance under Finnish command proved a timeless lesson. The machine matters, but the pilot matters more. Where Allied pilots saw a coffin, Finnish airmen saw an opportunity. They refused to let the limitations of their aircraft dictate their fate. By training harder, adapting tactics, and flying with unshakable discipline, they transformed the Buffalo into a weapon of national defense. Today, the Brewster Buffalo is displayed in Finnish museums not as a joke, but as a national treasure. It stands as a reminder of how a small country, outgunned and outnumbered, could still bend history through skill and determination. Visitors see more than rivets and metal. They see the stories of Juutilainen, Wind, and countless others who risked everything in a plane no one else believed in. The legacy also continues in military studies. The Finnish experience with the buffalo is often cited as proof that strategy, training, and morale can outweigh technology. In an age when advanced weaponry often dominates the headlines, the buffalo's story remains a powerful counterpoint. To this day, Finnish veterans speak of the buffalo with affection, remembering it not for what it was supposed to be, but for what they made it. A fighter mocked elsewhere became, in their hands, a legend. And legends never die. They echo across generations as proof that even the weakest tools can change history when wielded with courage. The Brewster Buffalo began life as a laughingstock, dismissed as obsolete before the war even truly began. Yet in Finland, it became a symbol of defiance, courage, and ingenuity. Against impossible odds, a small nation turned a flawed machine into a legend of the skies. Its story isn't about the plane, it's about the pilots who refused to surrender, and that's why the Buffalo's legacy still soars, reminding us that underdogs can rewrite history.